Hi Firsties, as you can see, we are starting a brand new unit. I don't even have the poster up here yet. Speaking of brand new, this is Mr. Odie Robinson. Well, Odie, he is a red healer. Just like how Rue was a blue healer, this little dude is a red healer. He might be joining us in future lessons. Thank you, sweet Odie. Okay, you want to go play? Yeah. Okay, there you go, bud. So, Odie was just here to help introduce our brand new unit. Now, first graders, we have been talking all about non-fiction books. We've looked at, the moon, right? We've looked at An American Pastime, baseball. We have studied sweet, sweet meerkats. And finally, we have gone through koalas. Wow, so much learning has already taken place. So now, my friends, we're going to go ahead and take all of that knowledge and really put it to the test, okay? So we are not necessarily going to continue studying nonfiction books, but instead we are going to study a person. And this particular person is an author. He is also an illustrator. You might be asking yourself, what is an author? What is an illustrator? If you don't quite know, no worries. That's what I'm here for. So friends, we are going to be studying the incredibly talented children's author and illustrator, Eric Carle. Round of applause, please. You may be, familiar with Eric Carle. Maybe he wrote one of your favorite children's books. He has written many. Maybe you know The Tiny Seed. Maybe you've read Thank You, Brother Bear. This one's in our read aloud today. What about, the mixed up chameleon? Papa, please get the moon for me. Mr. Seahorse. This one's a fun one. The Very Busy Spider. And this one is an accumulation. It has The Tiny Seed, Pancakes, The Mountain That Loved a Bird, A House for Hermit Crab. We've read that one in class. Walter the Baker, The Greedy Python, Rooster's Off to See the World, and many more, my friends. I mean, he has written tons and tons and tons of children's books that I bet have brought you so much joy. So today, boys and girls, I had you go ahead and watch a quick video in the connect phase of our lesson where you got to really dive into who Eric Carle truly is. Okay, and so you were probably able to learn about how at an early age he didn't love school. He felt as though teachers back during his childhood were too rigorous and did not allow him to be his creative and imaginative self. They weren't really considering that you matter, right? But it was actually not until he got into high school that he had some educators that really taught him to embrace his uniqueness and his creativity. From that point on, he soared. He was able to just take off with his writing and with his illustrating. So dudes, I hope you watched that video. If you have not yet, please go take a peek at it. Please, oh please, oh please. So friends, the text that I really want to zoom in on today is Eric Carle, Rooster's Off to See the World. Now friends, there's a very particular reason I chose this book. There are two actually. The first one is that it is about a rooster. And as you may know, my previous pup was named Roo and we called him Rooster. And so this just means a lot to me and that's why I wanted Odie to be a part of our introduction. So I am just a little selfishly picking this one because it very much reminds me of my sweet little angel pup. Another reason why I wanted us to really dive into this text is because this is all about what a rooster wants to do and where he wants to go. Now, friends, right now in the world, we are kind of struggling with that aspect. We're having a difficult time going off to see the world because we have to stay at home and choose safety, and that can get a bit tiring. So, with Eric Carle's help, today we are going to go on a grand journey to see the world together. Now, friends, I want you to be thinking as we are reading, I want you to be thinking about where, oh, where will I go once this quarantine time has passed and we can go off to see the world. That's what I want you thinking about throughout our entire learning today. So let's hop into Rooster's Off to See the World. Super quick picture walk as always. Ooh, cool. See, look at these illustrations, my friends. And if you watched that video that I mentioned earlier, you will get an in-depth understanding of specifically why he chooses the types of paints and tools that Carle uses in order to create these fabulous images. Okay, let's do it. Carle, Rooster's Off to See the World. One fine morning, a rooster decided that he wanted to travel. So, right there and then, he set out to see the world. He hadn't walked very far when he began to feel lonely. Just then, he met two cats. The rooster said to them, "Come along with me to see the world." The cats liked the idea of a trip very much. "We would love to," they purred and set off down the road with the rooster. As they wandered on, the rooster and the cats met three frogs. "How would you like to come with us to see the world?" asked the rooster, eager for more company. "Why not?" answered the frogs. "We are not busy now." So the frogs jumped along beside the rooster and the cats. After a while, the rooster, the cats, and the frogs saw four turtles crawling slowly down the road. "Hey," said the rooster, "how would you like to see the world?" "It might be fun," snapped one of the turtles, and they joined the others. Ooh. As the rooster, the cats, the frogs, and the turtles walked along, they came to 5 fish swimming in the brook. "Where are you going?" asked the fish. "We're off to see the world," answered the rooster. "Oh, may we come along?" pleaded the fish. "Oh, delighted to have you," the rooster replied. And the fish came along to see the world. The sun went down. It began to get dark. The moon came up over the horizon. "Where's our dinner?" asked the cats. "Where are we supposed to sleep?" asked the frog. "We're cold," complained the turtles. Just then, some fireflies flew overhead. "We're afraid," cried the fish. Now the rooster really had not made any plans for the trip around the world. He had not remembered to think about food and shelter. So, he didn't know how to answer his friends. After a few minutes of silence, the fish suddenly decided that it might be best if they headed for home. They wished the others a happy trip and swam away. Then the turtles began to think about their warm house. They turned and crawled back down the road without so much as a goodbye. The frogs weren't too happy with the trip anymore either. First one and then the other, and finally the last one jumped away. They were polite enough, though, to wish the rooster a good evening as they disappeared into the night. The cats then remembered an unfinished meal they had left behind. They kindly wished the rooster a happy journey, and they too headed for home. Now the rooster was all alone, and he hadn't seen anything of the world. He thought for a minute, and then said to the moon, "To tell you the truth, I am not only hungry and cold, but I am homesick as well." The moon did not answer. It too disappeared. The rooster knew what he had to do. He turned around and went back home again. He enjoyed a good meal of grain and then sat on his very own perch. After a while, he went to sleep and had a wonderful, happy dream, all about a sleep around the world. So, kiddos, you probably realized from this text that it is a sort of mathematical story. Okay, there are equations throughout the whole book that you probably didn't even notice. This book at the beginning was all about addition, right? You know, we were adding more animals and more animals and more animals to the journey. And then toward the end, it became more of a subtraction because off ran the turtles, right? Off ran the fish. And slowly by slowly, it turned into just one rooster left all alone. So friends, keep that in mind as we go ahead and read this little get to know the author page. Alrighty? Okay, now I really wanted to read this piece to you, my friends, because it tells us a little bit more about Eric Carle as an author/illustrator. As a child, Eric Carle claims to have been much more of a philosopher than a mathematician. He recalls his difficulties this way. So he said this: "If you told me that there were 2 apples in a bowl and one was taken away, and then asked me how many apples were left, I wasn't sure. After all, you can't really take away an apple. You can eat it or make cider out of it or hide it under a basket, but the apple is still an apple and it isn't really gone. On the other hand, if you added 1 apple to a bowl with an apple already in it, there was always the bowl to worry about. Wasn't that a something to count in the total?" Eric Carle wrote Roosters Off to See the World, not only for the child who has these difficulties with numbers as specific symbols, but also for all children who are getting acquainted with numbers. Alrighty, boys and girls, I want you to think about, what did we learn about Eric Carle as an author/illustrator? Not what did we learn from the book per se, but what did we learn about him? I would really like to write down that we learned that Eric Carle loves helping children with mathematics. I think that's something huge about him as an author. Enjoys helping kids with math. Okay, now if there are any other things or items or pieces of information that you learned about Eric Carle, why don't you go ahead and try some of our note-taking strategies that we've already spoken about and write them down yourselves. Okay, boys and girls, so the last thing I want you to do before you head on off and do any reading that you'd like, I want you to think about Rooster and how unprepared he was for his great adventure. As you know, we are soon going to be relieved of this quarantine period, and we are going to have the opportunity to see the world. So I want you to think about, where are you going to go? Who are you going to bring with you? And how will you be prepared for your trip? Okay, I want you to think about those 3 things. Where will you go? Who will you bring with you? And how will you be prepared? Thank you, boys and girls. I love Eric Carle. We will get to dive into more of his texts very, very soon. Thank you so much for reading with me. Goodbye. I'll see you next time.